You are listening to UpTalk with Sean Conahan. The gloves are off, and it's time to have a chat.
Hello, people, and welcome to UpTalk Podcast. Thank you for joining me. However you're listening, streaming, downloading, however you do it, I thank you. I couldn't do this without you, as you know. I would like to extend a big warm welcome to Project Trauma Support. They are coming on board as a title sponsor for the last remaining few episodes of this season. If you don't know about them, look up projecttraumasupport.com or scroll back and listen to a few episodes, past episodes of the podcast, either with Hal Hughes, Rob Mitchell, Jason Bird, or Dr. Manuela Joanno. And you can learn more about the program that way. Truly life-saving program. I was blessed to be a part of it in December of 2016. Changed my life, saved my life. So please check them out and welcome them aboard. As I mentioned in a video I posted a few days ago, we're going to change up the UpTalk gratitude game. We're going to make it simpler, easier. Don't worry about listening for anything special. Don't worry about pausing the podcast and doing it. Here's what we're going to do. After each episode airs, I'm going to post a video a few days afterwards. And I'm going to tell you what I'm grateful for. I would like you to reply in the comments of that video with what you're grateful for. Or post your own video, either on the Facebook page, Instagram, or Twitter, however you want to do it. Tell me what you're grateful for. Leave the hashtag UpTalkGratitudeGame, and we'll go from there. All right, so I'm doing it, so you can do it. Let's all do it together. My guest this episode is Derek Davis. He's a paramedic, also a paramedic instructor, and an avid cyclist. We're going to hear about his story and what led him to want to cycle up a volcano in Hawaii to bring more awareness to first responder mental health. Really cool dude. I really enjoyed the chat. I know you're going to love it. Let's get to it.
It was a dark and stormy night, nor'easter rolling in.
Welcome to the podcast, Derek. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, I'm excited to be on with you.
Oh, I know we've been trying to get this done for a little bit, ever since my brother Rob Mitchell messaged me and said, you have to have this guy on. And ever since then, I've been trying to hook it up, and just with me, with work and everything, it got a little bit hairy, but we're finally here, and that's what matters.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Cool, Derek. So for me, because I don't know much about you, and I'm learning about you here mostly right now, can you tell myself and our listeners about yourself, how you grew up, where you grew up, and what led you to want to become a paramedic?
Yeah, grew up on a farm just outside of Ottawa. With my parents and my brothers. We ran a family business. So I did that growing up. Of course, that's always keeping you busy. I learned how to work hard from a young age, for free, most of it.
Yeah.
And then grew up in there, went to school in Armprar. That's where our business was. It was a snowmobile and sea-doo business. And as I was growing up, my brother was killed in a traffic accident when I was 15. Wow. So that kind of changed the family business quite a bit. And he was looking at being a firefighter, actually. So
really?
He was my older brother, and of course, looking up to him and him as my mentor, kind of decided, hey, I'll look towards that. I went to business school. Our business decided, as my parents decided to kind of change things up. They really weren't into the business the way they used to be.
Right. And
my other brother and I, we just really weren't into it either. So decided I'd finish business school and think about becoming a firefighter. So, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional there.
Feel free. It's an important subject. It is.
Yeah. So, talked to some firefighters. Very hard to get on in Ottawa. Very competitive department to get into.
Right.
And they said, go take the paramedic program. It's a great introduction. All those skills are going to help you out being a firefighter. So I decided, yeah, I'll do that, and got accepted right away, which was great. Always had a big interest in the medicine, science, biology. Something in high school I really, really enjoyed. So the course came naturally to me. And once I started my rideouts, I knew that's where I was meant to be, and decided to have a career as a paramedic. From there...
Sorry, you had to go back to school to do that, did you? Or?
Yeah, I went back and did the 2-year program at Algonquin.
Okay.
Did rideouts in River County, which is just outside of the Ottawa area, and did rideouts in Ottawa as well. Got a job in Renfrew County, got a job in North Bay, worked there casually for the first year, and then got a full-time job in Ottawa after that.
Wow, okay. So what year would it have been when you started working full-time in Ottawa?
Full-time, it was the beginning of 2005.
2005. Now, when you started working there and after you were working there for a little bit, were there any illusions you had to what the job would be like that ended up being nothing like what you thought, as far as just how hard the job is, whether it be physically or emotionally?
Yeah, I think physically I really understood what was out there, what kind of injuries could happen, how easy it was to get injured and maybe not be able to finish your career.
Right.
I think there's something that I really understood. But mentally, I didn't understand. I came in and, I was ready to go do all the calls, as many as I could, help as many people as I could. And I saw the older guys, they were, burnt out. They're burnouts, and they seemed frustrated with the job. And I didn't really understand what they were going through. They just seemed like old, crusty guys that you didn't want to necessarily work a shift with.
Right.
And as I started to get a few years under my belt and seeing some of the calls that they had probably seen, I started to understand that they weren't old and crusty. They were hurting. Mm-hmm. And that was something that grew over the years for sure. But definitely not something I knew when I walked into the job at all. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and you have a unique perspective because you're also now a paramedic instructor. So you always often hear people say, you should have known, or you should have known what you signed up for, that kind of thing. And you yourself can teach a lot of things to paramedic students, but I'm not sure if you can ever adequately train them, or I don't think you can prepare them for what the emotional burden will be, because it's going to be different for everybody.
It's really tough. I think I definitely try to teach when I'm teaching students out on the road or in the classroom. I try to let them know that it's hard and these things happen, and it doesn't matter how strong you think you are, it can happen to you. And I think that they don't get it. It's really hard to understand until they've been out there doing it. And yeah, I think it's something that you definitely can't train them to be ready for, but you can definitely prepare them and know some of the stuff that can happen and the signs and symptoms and what to look for. But it's very hard for them to understand because all they want to do is go and help people. Yeah. And they don't want to think of anything. It's like they just block it out. Right. It's really hard.
Yeah, for sure. It has to be. And I mean, so you start your career and you see these old guys that seem cranky, but looking back, they're probably just not well. And, emotionally, how did you navigate? How do you think you did early on in your career, navigating through that? How'd you make it?
First 2 years were probably really good. At least I thought they were really good. Yeah. And, worked with great people, did lots of really good calls, saved some lives, did what I was out there to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it was about year 3 when I had a run of suicides, and a lot of them under the age of 30.
Mm.
And then, there's the hard pediatric calls, and it just started stacking up. And as I was growing up, I got really good at pretending everything was fine after my brother was killed. And so I used that. It was a skill I had, and I think it's one that a lot of first responders do have and use a lot, is that just bury it. Keep going, because everyone else is doing it, everyone else is okay, so I'm okay. And it was probably about really 7 years of that. Just really keep going. It's going to be okay. And
I mean, that skill you talk about, I mean, that burying and being able to bury it, it's essential on the job that we need, that to be able to do that and be unemotional and to be able to do our work, but it destroys us in our personal life. You know what I mean? Like, it's what helps us and what hurts us at the same time.
Yep. I was like, I could run calls. I was cold and clinical, and even telling loved ones that their family member had died, at times was unemotional, and that wasn't the way it was at the start, but it definitely was the way as it went. And that's when it started to spill over into my own life, and I could feel the times when I didn't feel emotion when I knew I should have.
Right. Yeah. I mean, did there come a point when that sort of came to a head for you, that you realized that you either needed to do something different or you needed to reach out for some help, or did that ever happen for you?
Yeah, there was this one time I was hanging out with a friend, and good medic, good friend of mine, and we were drinking pretty heavily, and someone that I looked up to as a medic that was really good, really strong, did his job so well, and he broke down hard, and it was really tough because I was holding on to so much at that time, and to see someone that, I was saying, well, he's doing it, he's getting it done, he's out there, and he wasn't, he was still doing the calls, but he wasn't okay. And I think
how did that make you feel to see him do that?
It really shook me, because it's those rocks you build yourself on, to see the people that you count on, that that can do this and are doing those same calls that you're doing. And when you see someone like that isn't showing anything, that's really acting the way I was acting,
right?
And it's not okay, and they do break down. That was really a turning point for me, that if I didn't change, if I didn't do something different, it was going to go very bad.
So when would that have been? What year would that have been?
That was about 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
So it would have been 2013.
So what did you do out of that? What did you turn that into?
Well, I did what I'd done a little bit, but I always spent those first 9 years really shielding my wife, not, just, tough call today, not really telling her how I was feeling about it. And that's when I started to really let her know how I was feeling. And I learned that I could do that without telling her about the call. She needs to know a little bit about what happened, but not anything that would overexpose her. But I could tell her how I was feeling. And that was huge. That was really where I started. And then I started to realize that, my physical health had suffered. I put on 50 pounds. I was drinking too much. A lot of binge drinking on the weekends that, spilled over into weekdays at times.
Right.
And So I knew that all those problems I was going to have to work on, because all of it goes together. And I was starting to piece that together. And of course, my wife who's pretty much always right. She might say that she is always right.
That's the way it works.
Was, showing me the way, showing me that this is what's not going well for you. And it's hard when you're living this first responder life that you make decisions, life and death.
Yeah.
And, now you're the one who has to be told, this isn't going well. And so that was tough, but changed my diet to a plant-based diet.
Okay.
Fantastic. I lost 50 pounds right away. Obviously changed my drinking habits, and
now, was your wife already doing that? Did your wife already have a plant-based diet, or did you guys do it together? Or?
No, we did it together.
Okay.
That was something that we just decided that for our health and everything was really where we wanted to go, and it made a big difference for me.
So do you eat, you still do that now?
Yep. Yeah, still plant-based.
So is there no meat at all?
No meat, no dairy, no eggs, no cheese, no pizza with cheese on it. Yeah, it was a drastic change from going from night shifts where there's only one place open, that one restaurant that opens that time of night, and you're eating that almost every night shift. If you don't bring food, you got to eat. And so a huge change for me. Follow that by going back to work with a partner and a mentor that I really trusted. So I really had that grounding, pulling it all back together. Had enough seniority to get off nights.
Oh, good.
So that was huge for me. During those 7 years after the run of suicides and a few difficult calls, I did a really, really hard call. And it was an MBC. And of course, that's always going to be a triggering issue for me.
Right,
and,
of course.
Turns out show up, and it's a bad scene, and I'm not going to get into a lot of description of it, but multiple deaths and trying to help who we could. And turns out it was my best friend's brother who was there, and he died in that accident. So, yeah, that's kind of, and I just put it away, couldn't spend time with that friend anymore. Obviously, really kind of killed our relationship because I just couldn't be around anything that reminded me of that call.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had a few panic attacks related to that and some serious symptoms. And again, that all led me to this. If I don't change, I'm going to have PTSD. I'm going to not be able to turn this around. I'm going to need a lot of help. I'm going to be out of the job permanently. And all those fears that I'm not going to be a paramedic anymore. And, that's, as a first responder, it's hard to not have that as part of your identity, right?
Yeah, it's impossible. Yeah.
It's who you are as a person, because that's what you do, whether you're a medic or a firefighter, police officer. It's what you do, whether you're at work or not. And so to not have that job, it was really scary. So yeah.
Now you said you realized you had to do something before you had PTSD. Now listening to you talk, and some of my listeners may be thinking this too, and some of the things you were doing as far as avoidance and that kind of thing, reasonably so after what you experienced. You don't think that you have it? You don't think that you already had it?
The reality is probably I did.
Yeah.
I definitely had the symptoms, whether I clinically would have been given that diagnosis, or whether I just would have ended up with, OSI and PTSD symptoms. I'm not sure. I never went and got assessed. I never went and got professional treatment at that time. So,
well, the important thing is that you realized that you saw it, whether you got clinically a clinical decision on it or not, you realized something was wrong, and you decided to make some changes because of it.
And people at work, their opinion of me when they talk to me, I'm a good medic and I do my job, and they were, when I started talking about this, they were surprised that this was going on for me.
Right.
So again, so many of us are hiding it so well that I'm not sure we even realize how many people are suffering as bad as they're suffering.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We don't. I mean, the numbers that you see, the numbers that are out there, the statistics, I mean, you easily double them for reality, probably more than that. It's just the way it is. It's the unfortunate reality of it. So what are some of the things you did on your own that you found helped you?
Yeah, so
obviously the diet.
Realizing that it was going on, starting to talk to my wife about my feelings. And it was interesting because I was cold and shut down outside of work and not expressing myself very well.
Right.
And at work, though, it worked out very, very well. But now I started to express myself and talk about my feelings, so now it spills over into work. So it's hard to, you lose that skill a little bit. And you know what? I think it probably makes me a better medic because I can connect to patients so much better, and they feel me that I really care. So I think on that side of it, it actually really helped me. So definitely talking, understanding that it was going on for me and admitting that I was feeling like that was another big step. I started cycling a lot.
Had you always done that, or did you start that then?
I started it a little bit before, 5 years ago. It was probably about 7 years ago I started cycling. I joined the paramedic bike team. We deployed in Ottawa, and I worked on that.
Right.
So I started cycling a little bit, but I really got serious 5 years ago about cycling. And so the cycling, I started doing triathlons, started doing long distance riding. I put together a couple of charity rides for Wounded Warriors and Temaconter. So did a few of those rides that I actually put together myself. And then I did the Capital ride, which was a ride from Ottawa to Washington. I just went to Boston, but did that ride, which was all about PTSD and mental health.
Right.
And so that was 2 years ago. So really,
you mentioned. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. You mentioned that you put together some rides for Wounded Warriors. Do you know Alan Kobayashi?
I don't know.
Okay, no, he's with Light on PTSD and other cyclists, and he started off putting together some rides for Wounded Warriors, and now he has his own. He does rides in BC. So when you said that, it made me remember him. But anyway, sorry. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so I started cycling a lot more, and I found it as a really, really good outlet because I could just get that physical energy, that stress, and those feelings out on the bike. So that really, and it helped me connect to my body a lot more, just like yoga or anything else that works for people. I started meditating, and I started doing all these things that we now know that we all need to do, and I didn't know I needed to do them at the time. I started looking up things and seeing, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do that. And meditating was another big one, to get my mind back in place and have a tool that I could just pull out whenever I needed. And that was about 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I started meditating. And that was huge. And now I have that tool anytime I want. I can just pull it out, and I know I can always go to meditation.
Do you do it every day?
Twice a day, 20 minutes.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Twice a day, 20 minutes, and then you can do just little 5 or 10 minute ones in the middle of the day if a tough day, tough call.
Do you use an app for that or anything?
I actually do a meditation called Transcendental Meditation.
Okay.
It's a word focusing type meditation.
Okay.
I find it's the one works for me. It's always whatever meditation works for you.
Right.
Yeah, I find it peaceful because there's no objective, and I think I had a hard time with other meditations that have objectives, like you need to do this or you need to do that, and this is just you repeat your mantra, and a good meditation is a good meditation, a bad meditation is a good meditation, because there is no bad meditation, and that's really what it's about. And so either you get deep and you feel really good, or you don't, and you just feel good about it either way. And it's good. I really like not having that pressure of succeeding. A little competitive myself, so when you have something that's not competitive, it's really good. So
did you learn from it from somewhere in particular, or is there a place that you went to learn about it?
I went to a transcendental meditation school. They teach you how to do it. Yeah. Really? Yeah, it's like a 6 or 7 step thing that you have to go through to learn it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And they actually offer discounts to first responders.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
where is it? You can go ahead and give them a shout out. Where is this at?
This one is called Transcendental Meditation Ottawa. Okay. They have them set up across Canada and the U.S.
Right on.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So you had put together these rides for wounded warriors.
Yep.
You had some of those under your belt. Then you get the bright idea that you would like to bike up a volcano.
Yeah, that sounds logical.
Yeah, that sounds pretty logical. So tell me about that and how that all came about.
Travel has also always been a therapy of mine. My wife and I got to travel quite a bit.
Right.
And we went to Maui one year, and we did the sunrise on the top of the volcano, which is named Haleakala. So we went up there, and this guy sings this amazing Polynesian sun song, and you have a really cool experience at the top of this volcano, watching the sunrise coming from below you and up through the clouds. And then they take you down a little ways, and you get on a mountain bike, and you bike down this volcano. So I'm doing that, and you realize how high you are. You can't breathe. You're at 10,000 feet, and you're riding this bike down a hill, and you're having a hard time.
Right.
And I was seeing the cyclists come up, and at this point, I wasn't even a cyclist. Like, it wasn't something on my radar. I'd never even ridden a road bike at that point.
And you decided to ride down a volcano? Wow.
Yeah, we were doing, I've ridden bicycles, obviously, like mountain bikes, but not road bikes. And so you see these guys biking up this mountain, this volcano, and I'm like, I said to Gwen, I'm going to do this someday. I'm going to bike up this volcano. And it seemed, almost ridiculous at that point, because I'd never ridden a road bike, and you don't ride up this thing on a mountain bike. So, it just sat there. Never, I knew that I wanted to do it someday, but it never really was something that I was gonna do, right? I never had a plan, never gonna. And then I knew that it was coming time to do it, and I had a story to tell, my own journey, and I really wanted to do that in a way that mattered to people, that it was more than just saying, hey, I'm not okay, and this happened to me, and it's happened to a lot of other people. So it was something that I just felt this journey of climbing up this volcano really paralleled with what I had gone through and what I'm going through now. I mean, as you know, it's a daily journey. It's not something that goes away. And to be able to do this ride, and I mean, the technology is there now where you can do it on Facebook Live, which is what I did. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this. So I committed to doing that. I guess it was in February of this year.
Right.
And then I started telling people I was going to do it. And then once you've told people you're going to do it, you really have to go and do it. It's one of those things, right? If you don't tell people you're not committed, no one has to know that you didn't go and do it. You just let yourself down. Now everyone else knows it, so you got to go and do it. So I started training heavily. Here in Ottawa, we have a really good training place in Gatineau Park. you're able to get some elevation in, but unfortunately, the highest is, 1,000 feet. So you're not going to get anything near, the elevation that you start to get to oxygen deprivation.
Right.
But I put the time in on the bike, did a lot of training, and planned out this ride, and really started letting people know that this was about PTSD. And my friend, my brother too, Rob Mitchell, had gone to the course with Project Trauma Support, and I knew how important it was and what a difference it was making for first responders.
Yeah, so that's a life-saving course.
Yep.
It's a program. We'll get into that in a second. So you plan this, you tell people that you're going to do it, which means you have to do it. So how was the response? Were people getting engaged with it?
Well, sometimes when you put something out there that's so big, I think it's hard for other people to comprehend what it really means to go and do that.
Right.
And so I don't know if everyone really understood how hard it is to bike up Haleakala.
Right.
It's one of the hardest climbs in the world. It's one of the longest paved straight climbs. People say it's as hard as any climb or any difficult climb in the Tour de France. And it's because you start at the ocean and you go to 10,023 feet. So there's hardly any place in the world where you can actually do that. Start at sea level and bike up. Most of those rides in France, you're starting at 3,000. So you don't have that, full oxygen to no oxygen kind of thing.
So how long before you were going to do the ride did you travel to Hawaii? Like, how early did you arrive?
I flew in on Thursday. I just kind of settled in. We rented a condo and settled in. Friday, I went and picked up the bike, got it adjusted, drove the route to the top. Obviously, food was an issue, so there was a lot of food planning, and I was very lucky to have my parents. My mom and my dad actually came, and my wife, Gwen. And
so what kind of food prep did you have to do?
For food prep, it was about taking my ride nutrition with me. So I took everything I needed for the ride itself.
Okay.
And then we just went and bought really good groceries when we were there. And luckily, my mom was willing to make my food for me and get everything ready. Like Gwen and I were doing the rest of the stuff. So.
Right.
So she was taking care of that stuff, and we prepped for the ride. And then, drove to the top, got mentally prepared, planned out brake spots, figured out where they were going to pull over because there's not a lot of spots there to pull over. Mapped out the route to make sure I wouldn't get lost, because the worst thing about biking uphill is to bike downhill to bike back uphill again. So you definitely don't want to do that. And then the next day I did the ride. So I was only there for about 34 hours or something before I actually got on the bike to bike up the volcano.
So what time of the day did you start your ride?
I started the ride at 6 o'clock in Maui, which is noon Eastern Standard Time, or 10 o'clock your time.
Okay. And how long did it take you?
It took me 5.5 hours of actual riding time. And then I had about, I didn't really start at 6. By the time I actually got everything rolling and video and all that stuff, it was more like 6:30 by the time I actually got on the road.
Right.
And then I had about an hour and 10 minutes of stoppage time on the way up. So my goal was to do it under 6 hours, which 5.5. I met that goal.
Yeah.
The goal was really about completing it. Obviously, never having the opportunity to take on something like that. Not being able to train with a low oxygen environment, which oxygen for us to breathe now is 21%. But when you get up to 10,000 feet, the effective oxygen is 12%. So you're almost half the oxygen that you can breathe down here. So not having that opportunity to train for that, I knew, I had to be careful and keep my energy under control.
So did you hit any walls on the way up, or were there any epiphany moments or spiritual moments for you that were on the way up?
Lots. I mean, it's a long journey, and I spent a lot of time, a lot of riding hours, a lot of kilometers with friends and cycling buddies to get there. And so that whole journey was spiritual. And then standing, I think I sent you actually a picture of myself standing, looking out at the ocean, holding the bike. That was a spiritual moment because I was there. You know, you're present in the moment, and sometimes that's hard to do after a shift, after you know, doing calls. To be present in the moment can be tough, and so I was very present. I went down and dipped my tire in the ocean and did it live on Facebook, and it was just it was so real. And then you get on the bike and you start biking up, and this beautiful sunny day turns to rain. And I mean, it's always good about Hawaii. When it rains, you get rainbows. So I got to see a rainbow, but I'm looking up the mountain, and the volcano just disappears into clouds. Right. And, you know, you just you wanted to be able to see this top to work for it, and you can't see it. So it was about an hour and a half in, and you bike up into the clouds, and you're only supposed to usually spend about an hour of riding in the clouds as you bike up the volcano. And unfortunately, I got to spend 3 hours of my ride in clouds, and you couldn't see down, you couldn't see up, no vision of the top, you couldn't see the next switch back. You know, times you couldn't see more than 100 feet in front of you. So it was just this gray mess. And at first it was good. I stayed focused, and then it starts to wear on you that you just can't see any of this goal that you worked so hard for. And you don't know, what is it going to be like this all the way to the top? Is it going to open up? And I was hitting on some pretty heavy stuff. Facebook Live as I was going up, and I was talking about the experiences I had as a medic, things that I've done, you know, and how I had been hurting. So I was already sort of open and exposed, and so this was just hitting me pretty hard. And definitely there's one point where I was crying as I'm biking on a bike in a rainstorm in the clouds, and you know, I kind of pick myself up a little bit, put it back together, and went back, and I was looking for encouragement. And I popped on, and within seconds, people are sending me hearts on Facebook, and they're encouraging me. And it's like, you know, it's amazing that electronic energy going through my phone can, you know, just pick you up and connect with you so much.
Right.
And of course I had my wife there. She's yelling and screaming and honking the horn as she goes by. They're handing me food like I'm in the Tour de France as they go by, you know, passing me more electrolytes and keeping me hydrated and pushing on. So they really helped work through. And I got up to as you bike up to 7,000 feet, they have a visitor center as you cross over into the national park there at the top of the volcano. And I rolled up, and the guy asked for his money. You have to have credit card on you because that's the only way to pay is you go into this park and you have to pay to ride your bicycle up. And so I go up, and he says, "Oh, that'll be $25, and that's the car rate." And I'm like, "Man, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be $8." And he looks over, he's like, "Oh, I didn't even know you're on a bike." Okay. And it was just so funny. I'm like, really, man? Like, if I have to pay $25 to be in a car, I guess I'm willing to do it at this moment because it's pretty exhausted. But it's just you know, he's like, "Oh, well, now not even paying attention, right? No one's riding up on their bike in this rainstorm." So get up to the visitor center, and I got some food, changed my shirt, changed my clothes. And unfortunately, I saw a guy who did ride up there, and he's like 19 years old, and he had to head back down. He just wasn't going to make it to the top. And, you know, you just have this cyclist code when you look at each other, and one of you's not getting it done. And it was just this look of like utter disappointment, right? To come all that way and not make it to the top. So it was really tough to see him, but that just really pushed me on more to say, no, I'm going to the top. Right. And so as part of my training, you use a watt meter to know how much power you're putting out. And so I knew that I need to stay around 200 or below to make it to the top without maxing out. Okay. And so I'm biking up, and I'm coming into the clouds, and the clouds break, and you can see the top to the observatory. And the energy and the push and my cadence picked up and the speed picked up, and just I was flying up, and I almost doubled my energy for the rest of the ride. It was almost 400 watts, which you shouldn't really be doing when you're above 8,000 feet and, lack of oxygen, but I just couldn't control it. It was just energy and going for it and making it up to the top and doing a few more Facebook Lives. I talked about the t-shirt that I had made with Project Trauma Support on it.
Right.
And, working my way to the top. And, my dad was up there, and he ran beside me for, 100 feet, encouraging me up. And I got up to the top, and there was Gwen at the top. Gwen was waiting for me. And I had visualized that moment so many times. And that's exactly what happened. And the way it went was exactly what it had to be.
Wow.
And it was to connect with everyone and tell my story and let them know that it is okay and you can work through this, and it doesn't mean the end of your career. You can survive this. There is hope. And to be able to do that was amazing. I was lucky to be at the top, and I gave a little talk, and I'd been loaned a challenge coin from a good friend who I ride a lot with, and he had gotten that from MP Todd Doherty.
Right.
And so I got to carry that challenge coin all the way to Hawaii and up the volcano and talk about Bill C-211. And it was pretty amazing to be able to do that and let everyone know what's going on out there, and that, we do need help. So, it was good.
So you do this and you come home, like, what do you have plans to do now? Are you going to do something else?
Yeah, what do you do next, right? Once you've biked up a volcano, what do you do next?
Yeah.
I'm working on that plan right now. There's actually, we're going to do a bike ride in June. The dates haven't been picked.
Right.
But working with Project Trauma Support, we're going to bike out of Ottawa. It's about 120 kilometers. We're going to go to a whitewater rafting place.
Okay.
Can't name them yet because they have to confirm that they're going to be on board with us, but I'm pretty sure we're close to securing that.
Perfect.
And we're going to do some stay overnight, do some whitewater rafting, spend some time together, do a little mountain biking. Project Trauma Support is going to come up and do some training with us, a little session, and then stay overnight. And the next day we're going to do a ride over to Project Trauma Support to end the ride.
Oh, wow.
So it's going to be a 3-day thing with some really good mental health training. So that's a ride, and I've done this before, and so I really, it's something that I'm passionate about and bringing forward, that we can bring together some first responders and cycle, but get some help, get some knowledge along the way, and really build some relationships that we can move forward with.
Well, let me know when that gets confirmed.
Yep.
Obviously, because I'll put some information out there and I'll pump it on my podcast as well. So you mentioned it a few times, so now we'll dive into it. How did you learn about or get connected with Project Trauma Support?
It was through Rob. He was because he had been there, because he talked about it so passionately and how much I had done for him. And he connected me through to talk to Manuela, Janu, and the people there. And I went out there before I went on my ride and did get to spend some time with them. They walked me through, so it's, you drive in that place and you feel at peace as you drive down the laneway.
Yeah.
And you have this amazing greenery and a forest and beautiful buildings and the water nearby, and really, really amazing place to be. They gave me a tour, walked me through kind of what the cohorts do and a little bit of stuff. They don't like to release too much information, so I don't know a lot, but I know just enough to understand what everyone accomplishes when they're there.
Right. I mean, I was lucky enough. I was on the cohort with Rob. I was blessed to be on his same cohort with him and Jason Bird and a bunch of other really special guys, brothers. And it's transformative. It saved my life. It really, it really helped me come to terms with and learn how to mitigate the moral injury, injuries, which is what's left. I mean, you can deal with your memories, you can do therapy and go to EMDR therapy or cognitive behavior therapy and deal with those memories. But what you're left with are these moral injuries that are crippling. You know?
Yeah. That's, when I was there, I never really thought I was going to go to Project Trauma Support. It was, but that was something that, it's funny. I still keep saying, like, I'm okay. I don't need to go there.
Yeah.
Everything's okay.
Yeah.
And then you get there and you realize I'm really not okay, and I probably need to go here.
Yeah.
It's it's hard to admit these things to yourself sometimes. That's for sure. And
it's very hard. I mean,
I was able to realize that I do need to go there, and I definitely will be attending a cohort, soon. That's the plan to get out there.
I can't wait. Yeah.
Because I know that when they talked about how they're doing things so much different than everyone else, and really fixing an injury that no one else is even talking about.
The only one that comes close or is similar, and I know it's based off it loosely, is Save a Warrior in the States. That's sort of a similar, from what I know from people I know that have gone to Save a Warrior, that's sort of what it equates to. But definitely in Canada, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
So talk to me about essential oils, because in your bio you told me that you're a big advocate for essential oils, and I know nothing about them.
Yeah, so that was part of my journey. When I went plant-based, I started looking for less toxic stuff for the house. My wife, I was looking for solutions. She's getting a lot of headaches, and she's looking for stuff to cut out some of the medications and some things that she could do better. And
right.
So that's where I kind of got the interest to look into it. And so I started looking into it and realizing that, there's research here and there's science behind these oils, and a lot of medications are obviously based off of plants, and that's where their origins are. So you start to make these connections and realize that, there are some opportunities to use this natural healing power that's out there. So I started to look into it. I started using them about 4 years ago. And for me, initially it was, dealing with the sore muscles and stuff from cycling. Mm-hmm. And then started to realize how much aromatherapy and these oils can really help with when you're having a triggering moment, when you're having a flashback, when you're having something that's really taking you in a dark place. You can turn it around. You can use that smell, your limbic system, and just totally reframe everything. And there's certain oils that I use. I specifically use them at home when I'm relaxed with Gwen, with my dog. And when I use those oils, when I'm at work, when I'm stressed, when things aren't going well, I'm able to just bring myself right back to my safe place at home. And it's amazing how quickly it works. And so I started using them. I started using them just for myself. Right. And then I realized that, it is really working for me, and I need to share this more. So I started doing wellness consults with essential oils and coaching some first responders on how to use them for themselves and take advantage of these effects and these amazing positive effects that I was receiving from them. So I was able to start coaching them, and then I realized that was actually therapeutic for me because we were sharing my experiences, I was sharing their experiences, and then I was giving them a tool that could help them as well. Right. So is to be able to heal the healers, right? To help the healers was so empowering for me. So it was really, really good to be able to use these oils in that positive way.
Well, I saw it firsthand when I was at Project Trauma Support with Rob, because Rob was at that time huge into essential oils. He'd pull out this little thing and he'd rub it on his wrist or whatever, and whenever he was having issues, and I saw that it worked like right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at one time he actually got me to try it, and I did notice it did work. What was it? Did you tune him onto that, or was he already into that?
I did, yeah. Actually, I brought Rob in. We were friends from work and worked together. And yeah, so I walked him through some stuff that would help him out with some of the symptoms that he was having. So, yeah.
If someone wanted to learn more about it, like, is there a place that you would recommend or somewhere to go on the internet to learn?
I mean, definitely they can learn through me. If anyone wants to ask questions about things that worked for me, they can reach out and contact me. That's no problem. I can coach them through that process. I use a specific company that I work through, and that's who I coach through. So I definitely can do that. And you can just start looking at the research that's out there. There are psychologists and psychiatrists that are incorporating this into their practice. There are clinics being opened in the U.S. where they're going to do standard modern medicine, but they also incorporate essential oils into their treatments. So they bring the best of both worlds. So there's lots of amazing information that you can go out and just see what's working and why it's working. There's even oils that have the same effects as CBD oil.
Really?
So they actually work on the CBD2 receptors, which is the goal of CBD oil. And there's oils that actually work on those same receptor sites, and you don't have any of the issues of border crossing and stigma with CBD oil and these kinds of things. So there's a lot of amazing tools out there that can be used to help you, and it's just about finding the right ones for whatever works for the person.
I'm sure there's a range, but in general, are they expensive?
They are. If you want good oils, they're not going to be cheap, because the last thing you want to do is put something in your body that has pesticides or some kind of chemical. Right. So they're definitely not cheap, but they last for months. So the oil I was talking about that works on CBD2 receptors, that oil is about $50, but that should be lasting you 3 months. So for something like that, that's pretty effective. Not really that expensive. Just up front, it can be expensive. Yep.
Right.
And I never leave the house without oils now at this point. I know that I can count on them, and it's really a very effective therapy for myself.
Wicked. So, how would you say you're doing now?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
I have bad days.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's definitely affected me a lot at the moment is seeing how much my coworkers are hurting and seeing how much they're hurting and not saying anything. There's still stigma. I mean, we're working through it. We're trying to make it better, but it's still there. And I don't hesitate to tell anyone that I'm not okay, because I know every time I say it is maybe another time that someone else might say it too.
Right.
And so that makes me feel better. There's still hard calls out there that I have to do. I'm still working full time, and I know the things I have to do, and I know when I get off track. I have a psychologist that I go and I visit regularly. I have scheduled appointments. Okay. So I have that, to count on, and Gwen lets me know when I'm not right. When things stack up and I'm not myself or I'm not letting her in, she lets me know too. So when I use all those things and everything is in line, I'm doing well. It's all okay. And then definitely as things kind of stack up, it can be tough. So I think we think we're okay, and then you think everything's fine, and you stop doing a few of the things that work. If you let them lax off, then things start to fall apart again, and you have to get back to it. So that's kind of my path, is that journey of staying with those things I know work.
Yeah. I'm certainly glad you're doing well. You mentioned earlier that people could contact you if they have any questions about anything or, essential oils. How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on Facebook, Derek Davis. You can also look at Live Health Forward. That's the hashtag that I did my ride through, and the company that I work all my essential oils through.
Okay.
Also, Instagram, Live Health Forward, all one word.
Okay.
If you want to reach out on that. I don't really use Twitter that much, but if that's the way you want to reach out to me, it's Live Health FW.
Okay.
So if they want to reach out on Twitter, they can get me there too. And then they can email me if they want to email me at livehealthforward@gmail.com.
Perfect. So, sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's. I just want anyone who wants to reach out. Definitely. I'm willing to share and let them know what's worked for me. That's all I know is what's worked for me. But that might work for you too.
That's huge. It's huge for you to make yourself available. It's really needed. We just, especially, it's hard for us to turn to people in general, but if we're going to turn to someone, at least turning to a fellow first responder is a little easier to ask these questions, because, we're just starting to learn about all this stuff, and when you start talking about meditation and essential oils and, anything like that, like, a lot of us are just trying to get caught up because we really don't know much about it,
No, and I'm still learning too. Obviously, everyone's still learning on what works the best and when and how. So it's a journey, and we're all taking it together at the moment.
Yeah, and that's great. There's more of us coming, each and every day there's more of us joining that group. So, Derek, I'm going to end off with you like I do every other episode. So, if there's anybody listening right now who could be struggling on any level whatsoever, if they were in front of you, what would you say to them?
I'd say, first off, there is hope. And there are things that work. It will and can get better. And just coming and asking for help or talking like this is that first step. Mm-hmm. Definitely, it's hard to say you're not okay, but I would say that, honestly, I'm not okay too. And a lot of us aren't okay. And we're going to do this together.
We are, brother. That's awesome. Thank you for those words. Derek, this has been wicked. I'm so glad I got a chance to talk to you and get to know you a bit. It's been great. I thank you for taking the time out and that we were finally able to get this done.
Yeah. I appreciate your podcast so much. I listen to it myself, and the stories that are shared on there, I found very empowering and connecting, that I realize that I'm not alone in this journey. And I hope more people are able to reach out and see that it's okay to not be okay.
For sure. We have lots of work left to do, so we can't, we're nowhere near the end, but it's going well, and I think we're headed in the right direction. I really do. But I thank you very much for listening, and I appreciate your kind words. But, again, Derek, if you're doing anything else, or when you get confirmation of this thing in June, let me know, please. And if you ever want to come on and talk about anything else, just let me know. That would be awesome. But again, it was great having you on, and just keep taking care of yourself, and try not to ride up too many volcanoes if you can help it. But just take care of yourself and your family, and just keep going. And thank you for joining this movement and for helping out with the work.
Absolutely. It was great to talk to you tonight.
Awesome. My pleasure, brother.
Bye.
Now my shift is finally over. I gotta deal with what's mine.
A big thank you to Derek for coming on the podcast and telling his story, and for doing what he can to help crush the stigma surrounding mental health with first responders specifically. So again, thanks Derek. Love chatting with you. Alright guys, please check out Project Trauma Support at projecttraumasupport.com and learn more about that essential life-saving program right here in Canada. And don't forget, in a few days, I'll post a video on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter saying what I'm grateful for. 3 things I'm grateful for. What I expect from you is to leave a comment and tell me or post a video in the comments of what you're grateful for. Hashtag UpTalk Gratitude Game. That's how it's played. Okay? Thank you everybody for listening and for continuing to support the podcast. Please share it as much as you would like and help get the word out. I need as much help as I can get. So thank you. Alright, I still have a few more episodes left. At least 2, maybe 3 episodes left this season before breaking for the holidays to recharge a bit. So, until we chat again, take care of yourself and each other. More love, less judgment.
'Cause we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make a difference and the first on every scene. And it's a